Hey, Tito here with your Buckeye Blitz. You can follow us. Go to Fanstream Sports, powered by DSP Media. You can find me at It Happens on Twitter. All kinds of great Buckeye content. And Ohio State, I want to get into this first. They've kicked off some of their practices now. And I was out there the last couple of days, first 2 days, Thursday and Friday. And they'd let the fans in. You got to pay a premium, but you can get in there and watch practice and interact with some of the players and coaches, which is great. And a couple of things. First, I want to start off with this. Edric Houston, the defensive lineman for Ohio State, they're counting on him this year to be a big-time contributor. And he injured himself in a non-contact drill on Thursday. But I know it today on Friday, when I'm recording this was Friday, but he was back working out. Hyperextension, it looks like, for his knee, but nothing long-term, nothing serious. He should be fine. But he's an important part of this Ohio State defense. So the last couple of days have been interesting, and I've had a chance to talk to Matt Patricia, new defensive coordinator, Ryan Day, obviously Ohio State head coach, also Ross Bjork. I talked to A.J. Hawk, Anthony Schlegel, Bobby Carpenter a little bit as well about some of the things that their takeaways from the last few days, or last couple of days of camp for Ohio State. And also I had a chance to talk to some players during the Cardale Jones celebrity charity softball game for the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer. That was probably about a couple of weeks ago when that happened. But we'll start with that first. So at the celebrity softball game, Lincoln Keenholz, I talked to him. He's the Ohio State. He's in the running for the starting quarterback job with Julian Sayin for this year. Now, Keenholz, when all this came out like, oh, who's going to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State? I assumed Julian Sayin, 5-star kid, transfer from Alabama. He'd be the starter. I would be shocked if he wasn't. But over the last few weeks, I've learned from talking to people within the program that it really is a quarterback battle. Lincoln Keenholz has a chance to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State. And Keenholz is a stud athlete. He really is. He's had a couple years now in the program. I know that the one time we really saw him with extensive action was against Missouri in that Cotton Bowl game. Ohio State had a depleted offensive line, and Keenholz was the third quarterback. He wasn't really going to be playing at all. Devin Brown gets hurt. Keenholz comes in, and it was not pretty at all. But a lot of that for me was on two things. Offensive line, this was a couple years ago now, offensive line, and also just the fact that he wasn't really ready for that moment. And I've now talked to him 2 years in a row at this Cardale Jones game. I'm telling you, Lincoln Keenholz could very well be the leader of this team. He is a stud athlete. He is a 3-sport star coming out of high school. He was like the Gatorade national player, like sports guy of the year. If you look at all sports, he was a baseball, basketball, football player, and he's mature. He's polished. He really is. He's strong. He's big, and I would not feel differently about Ohio State if he was a starter over Julian Sayin. It really is a quarterback battle. And Day's not ready to name a starter, and I totally understand why. I know that he wants to name a starter before the Texas game, because you go into this kind of situation, you don't want to have any doubts about who your quarterback is. You don't want. Look, I've lived through 2 of these big-time quarterback challenges, I guess, before a season. The first one was the Joe Germain, Stanley Jackson one, and that one was awful because Cooper, a lot of the times, would rotate them almost like series by series, who comes in, who comes out. And then near the end of the season, it's okay, Jermaine's our guy. And then it doesn't go well. And it's a divided locker room. It's a split locker room because some guys really love Jermaine. Some guys really loved Stanley Jackson. I think Jermaine was a better quarterback, but there was that controversy going on that caused a bit of a rift, I think, in the locker room. The other time was the Cardale Jones and J.T. Barrett thing. After the Ohio State wins the national championship, Cardale was the one who led them to that, led them to the victories and all that. J.T. Barrett got him there, gets hurt against Michigan. Cardale, shot the 16 gauge, all this stuff. He leads them through the title. And then there was the battle between the two of them. And Urban waited a long time to name a starting quarterback there. Up until, even the season started, he waited and waited and waited. And I think that also, I don't say it caused a rift, but it was a bit unsettling, I believe. And so even through the first few games, he's flip-flopping back and forth. Who's the starter? Who's this? Whatever. Nonetheless, it didn't end well. So anytime we have a situation like this where the quarterback controversy, quarterback situation is not resolved leading into the season, not a good sign for Ohio State. I think that Ryan Day realizes that. I think he wants to name a starter in advance of the Texas game. This is our guy, and put it out there. But the struggle, the challenge is you've got to know who it is. And somebody has to establish themselves as this is the guy. I'm telling you, Julian Sayin, Lincoln Keenholz, both extremely talented. And either one of them could be the starting quarterback for this team, and I'd feel great about it. I wouldn't have said that 2 months ago. But after watching Keenholz, after talking to Keenholz, I'm telling you, this guy really could be the starting quarterback for your Ohio State Buckeyes. It very well could be. So we'll see what happens with that. But a little bit of time left on that. Although now as I sit here and say this, when's the Texas game? Later this month. It's coming up. It's a tough way to start the season. Ohio State, and no one within the team would say this publicly, but I have to believe they would rather have a couple of warm-up games before Texas. When Ohio State played Notre Dame, those back-to-back years, the home and home, it was not the opening game of the season. There were opportunities for Ohio State to play, if you want to call them preseason games, whatever, but lesser opponents they could play to establish themselves and find some things out about the team before they played Notre Dame. That's not the case this year. This year, Texas, game 1, August 30th, right out of the blocks. After that, Ohio State gets Grambling and gets OU, which would be great if it was flipped around to where it was OU or Grambling OU, then Texas, whatever, but that's not the case this year. So we're going to find out a lot about Ohio State right away, and I think they need to know something going in. They need to have a definitive guy. This guy has to separate themselves. And like I've heard other people say, the room knows. The team, like I'm not saying the room, the quarterback room, but the team room knows who the best quarterback is when they make that announcement. So, and they have to be all in. They have to buy into it and believe it. That's what they have to do. All right, speaking of buying in, I talked to Matt Patricia. And Matt Patricia he had a very mediocre tenure when he was a head coach of the Detroit Lions. Now, he certainly had a success as a coordinator with New England. He's got rings to show for it. He goes to Detroit, wasn't ideal. I will tell you this. Anybody, by the way, Matt Patricia got hired back for Ohio State, who's got a long-time relationship with Ryan Day. He knows Ryan Day very well. And one of the guys I work with, Bobby Carpenter, co-host of my show that I do with him for 97.1 The Fan, he played for Matt Patricia, so he knows him as well. And a lot of people wondered about the hire of Matt Patricia. I had a chance to meet him and talk to him. We talked to him for probably 20 minutes. This guy is excited to be here. His personality is infectious. I told him this. I said, look, you look younger now than you did when you were coaching the Lions. He's lost some weight, looks great. Still has a pencil in his ear. He had a red scarlet pencil in his ear when he was talking to us. But he's got enthusiasm for this, and I feel like he really wants to be here. And he's excited about being here at Ohio State. I know it's not a head coaching job in the NFL, which is a pinnacle thing. Being a head coach in the NFL, yeah, it's a pinnacle thing. It's like, that's what I want to do. That's the goal. And, Chip Kelly was a head coach in the NFL, came to Ohio State, and then left after 1 year as the OC, and now he's an OC for the Raiders, making a ton of money. But, like, that's something I think that these guys will strive for. But Matt Patricia has embraced the idea of being a college football coordinator. He's embraced recruiting. He loves going on the road. And he loves the fact there are certain things the NFL head coach you got to deal with that you don't have to deal with as a college coordinator. That's it, or as a college head coach for that matter. The stuff Ryan Day has to deal with is next level from where the things that Matt Patricia and OC Brian Hartline have to deal with for Ohio State. It's next level. It's a different thing. So there's some of that stress taken away. Matt Patricia is a damn good coordinator. I think that he is one of those guys who is a better coordinator than he is head coach. Not to say he could be head coach. He might learn something being here and want to go do it and be a head coach again. That might be the case. I'm just telling you, though, that he is an elite defensive coordinator. He's excited about this team, and you can just see it. Like I even told him this. I said, look, I see like a sparkle because he wants to do this. He loves this. And that's one of the things I like about Ohio State when I talk about the coordinators. It's a great job to have because if you're an offensive or defensive coordinator for Ohio State, you get paid very well. You get compensated well. You get compensated more as an NFL head coach or a college head coach. Yes, those are all absolutely true. You would compensated more if you're a head coach. Absolutely. But if you're the defensive coordinator for Ohio State, you have almost every week a decided advantage over the other team's talent. Your defense, your talent on defense, most weeks is superior to the talent on the other team's offensive side. Now, this year with Texas, it might not be the case. It might be even. Against a school like Penn State, might be even. But other than that, and we get the playoffs, who knows? But other than that, though, every other game, yours are better than theirs. You go into the games with an advantage. In the NFL, that's not the case. In the NFL, most weeks, it's even or a slight advantage because that's what NFL set up with parity and everything. Go to another school. Go to Northwestern. Go to Purdue. Go to Indiana. Be the head coach there. Most weeks, you've got a disadvantage in talent. That's not the case as a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator for Ohio State. Your guys are better than their guys. And that's the truth. And so I would think as a coordinator, that's got to be appealing. Because I know it's not easy. You still have to recruit. You still have to be elite. But most weeks, though, you've got better talent than what you're going up against. It's got to be a relief. It's got to be fun if you know your players are better than their players. And Matt Patricia, he talked about his love, like the university, just the way he's been embraced by the community. He's got younger kids. I know he enjoys. He lives close to Ohio State. He lives in Upper Arlington, which is a stone's throw from Ohio State. But I know he enjoys that as well. So I hope he's here more than 1 year. I hope he's here several years. The defense, though, is going to be really damn good again this year. I know Jim Knowles did a fantastic job here for going to Penn State. And the cupboard certainly was not bare. I know Ohio State lost a lot of players this year to the draft and whatnot, but they're going to be damn good again this year. And a couple of players we talked about when I talked to Patricia was, he's excited about Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, best defensive player in college football this year. You've also got Sonny Styles out there. Sonny Styles, look, he's a beast. He's an absolute beast. I've seen him, and he's, no matter what they tell you about his size, they say, oh, he's this, what, that was 6'4", all this. No matter what, he's bigger. You look at him, it's like, my God. Look, he's the kind of guy that if we were in, old Rome, the Caesar times, they would build a statue of Sonny Styles. He's going to be really good this year. He'll be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft, as will Caleb Downs. So the defense is going to be great. Can't wait to see that. And I'm really excited about Matt Patricia. I think people, like I said, were apprehensive a little bit when Ohio State hired him. Like, oh, this guy who got fired as a coach of the Lions, and then Patriots made him an offensive coordinator, which is stupid because he's not an OC. He's a defensive guy. But I'm telling you, you're going to be impressed with Matt Patricia. And I like I said, I think his enthusiasm is right there. So Patricia's going to be great. Ohio State, can't wait to see what they can do defensively against Texas in that first game of the year. And, another guy, I talked to Ross Bjork about this, and the fact that the Big Ten is pushing for this 4-4, 2-2, 1-1, whatever the formula is, where the Big Ten would get 4 automatic berths. And I get it. I understand why the Big Ten and SEC have differing opinions on this. That's what the Big Ten wants, the 4-4, 2-2, 1-1. And SEC wants 5 plus 11, where just the five conference champions get in, the 4 of the Power 4, and then the group of 5 gets in as a 5th one, and then there's 11 at-large berths. And the Big Ten's like, wait, we shouldn't do that because as the Big Ten, we play 9 conference games. SEC, you play 8. And so the SEC gets an extra, typically, it's really an extra gimme win because you'll see teams like Georgia Southern or Howard or whatever come through and play against, I don't know if Howard has a team, but go through and play against SEC teams as that extra game, whereas the Big Ten will play a conference game for that 9th game. SEC would have a different one. So the Big Ten is saying, hey, if you go to 9, we'll do 5 and 11. And SEC said, we're staying at 8. We like 5 and we like 5 and 11. Big Ten saying, no, you got to do this. It's a bit of a pissing match on but the SEC and Big Ten will end up determining where the college football playoff goes from there. Ross Bjork talked about that. Now, Ross Bjork, you remember, comes from the SEC. He was the AD for Texas A&M for years before coming to Ohio State. And he said that, look, every year in those SEC meetings, the ADs would talk about that. Like the 9-conference game thing was a subject, and they didn't want to do it. They want to stay at 8, didn't want to go to 9. So that's where the divide is. Big Ten wants 9-conference games across the board for SEC, ACC, Big 12. Play 9, and then we'll do 5 and 11. And SEC is saying, nope, we like 8, and we want to do 5 and 11. Big Ten saying, nope, we got to do this, 4. Because, and Ross Bjork even admitted this, if it was like Ohio State last year, think about this. Ohio State won the national championship last year. They were in 4th place of the Big Ten. So, and they made the playoffs. Great. They ended up winning the whole thing. But his point is, we were the 4th place team. We won the national championship. I think the Big Ten should get 4 guaranteed spots in the playoff every year. And he said so should the SEC. Because that 4th place team in the SEC, and what his point was, what Bjork was saying was, look, if that's not the case, if it's 5 and 11, we might not play this Texas game this year in Alabama. Home and home in Alabama after that, by the way, folks. Georgia, home and home after that. He's saying, you know what? Maybe it doesn't make sense to play those games if we don't get 4 guaranteed spots in the Big Ten. And I totally understand what he's saying. I also understand what the SEC is saying. I think both of them have valid arguments. There's got to be some kind of middle ground on this. I don't think the SEC wants to go to 9. Ohio State doesn't want to go to Big Ten doesn't want to go to 5 and 11. Maybe it'll be a 3-3, 2-2-1 or something along those lines. Maybe that could be the compromise they make. But there's a lot of reasons to argue either side of that. So we'll see what happens. And Ross Bjork brought up a great point too. Just think about college football, college sports in the last, say, 5 or 6 years. We've had the COVID thing. Obviously changed things. All the major conference realignments going on. You know, we've had the NIL stuff. We've had the stuff with Congress going on. The CFP coming in, and CFP then, you know, what was going. Like, there are so many things that have gone on in college sports that have changed just like in the last 6 years. And that's a lot to absorb. And they're trying to navigate this without knowing what's going to happen the next 6 years after this. There's also already media deals in place for the conferences that limit the kind of changes they can make. So we'll keep an eye on that. All right, that's it for today's Buckeye Blitz. We'll talk again. I've got to talk much more about what Ryan Day had to say, also what Ross Bjork had to say, and even Laurinaitis Carpenter and A.J. Hawk, the trio of former Ohio State linebackers. We'll do that next time. This has been the Buckeye Blitz. I'm Tito, at It Happens. Follow me on Twitter there, or the X, whatever you call it. But download the app, the free Fan Sports app. It's free for Apple and Android users. Go check it out and download that. Get all of our content. We have great shows writing all the time. I'll talk to you next time.